Hey, you doing everyone? Greetings and welcome back to the basement. So today, because for the last week I've been screwing around with this Amstrad CPC just to play around and see what was going on, right? And actually it had a broken key on it when I pulled it out. It turned out to be. Anyway, that doesn't matter. What we are doing today is we're going to have a little look at the CPC Dandanator Mini Jewel. Now this device here I bought about 2 years ago, and what it is a kind of a programmable cartridge that you plug into the expansion port on the back of your Amstrad CPC, and it'll let you load up test software pretty easily. It'll also let you load up games and stuff that you've chosen yourself to put onto it, and it will let you load games from a host PC using a USB cable. So it's a kind of a handy little device. But what it isn't is an SD card reader. So you can't easily program up an SD card with every game there ever was for the Amstrad and just shove it into it and play away. You need to use a little piece of software to compile whatever games you decide you want to put onto it into a ROM file that can be copied across to the flash ROM inside of it using a USB cable. And you're kind of restricted in one little way, because you can't put multi-load games onto it. So any games that kind of load in one shot, you can use away on it. But games like Robocop, for example, where when you finish the first level, you have to load the second level, and on like that, they won't work with this device. First level probably will, but beyond that, it won't. So that's pretty much what this device is. And it's handy, but it can be temperamental at times as well. But anyway, before we go into too much about what exactly it does, well, actually, no, we're going to go into what exactly it does right now. Let me bring the camera over and we'll plug it into the Amstrad and I'll show you what it's doing for the moment and then how we can program it and use it. So it just occurred to me as I was about to plug it in that maybe you'd like to see what the heck buttons are on this thing. Anyway, here we are. We've got 4 different little thingies on this in all. We've got a blue reset button, which does exactly what you think it might do. We've got a disable button, which disables this cartridge if you power on while it's pressed down. And we've got an alternate button here, which will let you, actually you can program this up with whatever games or programs you want, and you can also program up an alternate ROM, so that when you power on with this pressed down, it'll boot into that alternate ROM. So you could have like Noel's CPC test suite programmed into the alternate space, and then you could use this away as you wanted. And if you wanted to test a CPC, throw it in and keep this button held down while you boot. The other thing here is a little switch with 1 and 2 on it. And you see, this guy here is a CPC Dandanator Mini Jewel. Now the original Dandanator Minis came with 1 flash chip on them, and the flash chip was 0.5 megabyte big. This guy here has 2 of them, so to switch between the 2 flash chips, you just slide this switch, more or less. As simple as that. So there you go. Let's plug it into the back of the system and we'll have a look and see what it does exactly. Alright, so enough talking about this stupid thing. Let's put it into the back of the Amstrad CPC and see what it can actually do. So we'll power down, because it's always good to power down. You don't want to be trying to fix the thing afterwards. When we power back up, what we get is we get a menu. And you can put more than 10 games onto this thing. And if you have more than 10 games on it, you would cycle through the different pages of the menu using the arrow keys. And then you can select the game you want by selecting the number beside it. But let's just have a quick look at this thing first. So what you see here is loader. We'll go into a little bit in a moment what that is and how you use it. USB game again, but this guy will let you load games instantly from a host PC onto your CPC using this setup. Then this here is in Spanish, but if you have pokes for games, you can actually program them at the same time, so you kind of got a cheat menu as well for your games. And here we've got Noel's Amstrad Diagnostics, which I'll show you in a moment. So just very quickly, the way it's set up, this is pretty much all we can do with it. But if, for example, I wanted to play Arkanoid 2, I would press 3, and pretty much instantly, this is after loading up. Yeah, we got sound too. But yeah, it's instant load and away you go. But like I say, the thing is, you've got to pick the games you want to put on it, and they're the ones you're stuck with until you kind of program it again. Remember, there is a reset switch or button on the back of this thing, or on the cartridge itself. You press that, it'll bring you back to your menu screen. Now, if you want to use the system as normal, you can press and hold down disable to disable the cartridge, and just give the reset button a little press, and it brings you right in to your regular kind of user interface on the Amstrad itself. Reset again, it'll bring us back in here. Now, if you wanted to, the way this has been set up at the moment, if you wanted to, you could run Amstrad Diagnostics by pressing the R key here. So if I do that, it brings me straight into the Amstrad Diagnostics program, and you can run those, and it'll tell you if your system is good or not. But that's great to be able to run it that way if you can see what's going on the screen, or if the system is actually kind of working for you. You know, that you can see it to load up and press R and all the rest. If your system isn't working properly and you want to try running those Amstrad Diagnostics to see if you can diagnose the problem, you'd put in the cartridge, you'd press and hold the alternate button, and you would power on, and it will power straight into Amstrad Diagnostics. So this way you'll get beeps and whatnot, even if you don't have a picture on the screen, to let you know, or to give you some indication possibly of what is wrong with the system. But there you go, that's pretty much what this cartridge is. It's pretty much what it does. So what I'll do is I'll show you very quickly the software used to make up your own ROM images and how you would program them onto the cartridge. Let's take a little look at it. So what we have on screen here is the ROM generator for the CPC Dandanator. You'll find this on the Dandanator website, but it's a jar file, which means that it will run with Java, and it's compatible with all the operating systems, Linux, Windows, and Mac, and it'll pretty much let you use the Dandanator fully. What we have here are a number of windows. So what we have, well, inside this window we have 4 windows. We've got this guy here, which is what our menu screen will look like when we boot up with the Dandanator in it after we finish programming. This here is a emulator of an Amstrad CPC to kind of show you what the first screen is like, and you can also see if the program will work or not, more or less. Here is the window where you drop in your ROM images that you add to the ROM set that you're creating, and this window here gives you extra information along with a bar here that will show you how full the flash memory is so far, so if you can put more games on it or whatever, or not. And down here for the pokes as well, so you got your ROMs and you got your pokes. Now in here you've got a couple of things you can do. You can import a ROM set, which is a ROM set you would download off the internet, for example. You would import it and it would be already made, so you wouldn't have to worry about adding your own ROMs or anything. Just flash it straight away and away you go. Merge ROM set, if you've already made a small little ROM set with 2 or 3 games that you want, and you already have one with a couple of games, you can kind of combine the 2 together. You've got preferences down here, and this is actually kind of important, this one. Here you'll see that you can dress your menu screen. You can give it a background image, you can change it to another image if you so wish. You can select the font that you want in here to use on your background, or not on your background, but the text as it will be. Also you can select the type of emulated hardware, so you have the Amstrad CPC 464 or the 6128. And you've got a couple of extra bits here. You can include an extra ROM, and you have compatibility mode. Now that's in your general preferences. Dandanator CPC, you have these messages that you can change. You've got your launch game message. You can pretty much type in whatever text you want in there. A toggle pokes message, your select pokes message, and your extra ROM message. And you can also stick in an extra ROM, so that'd be the likes of the diagnostics program that I have on my ROM. So that's the fella that would boot when you press the alternative button and power on. And loader here as well is kind of important. You can send a custom file, and that's used if, well, it's used in some special circumstances. And also you can select the serial port that you wish to use. Now, there's no serial port selected here because I have the ROM cartridge out, so we're not actually connected to it at the moment. We'll do that in just a second and have a look see. But this is pretty much it. What you would do is you would take ROM images, cassette images or disc images. Here, for example, I've got The Hobbit, and you would transfer it into where it says drop games here. And you'll see there's a little kind of a timer thing that turns around to let you know it's doing something. And you see that your game is in here. It's after being added to the menu. And if you click on it, you'll see kind of the screen you'll be presented with if you select that on your Amstrad afterwards. Also, you'll see here that the ROM bars, after filling up ever so slightly, it's being compressed as well. So there's actually compression going on here to allow you to put in 1 or 2 extra ROMs. If I you'll see that the bar doubles in size, more or less. So that is more or less how you use this interface. It's kind of easy enough to use in order to put stuff onto the cartridge. Then in the extras menu, you have some extra stuff that you don't need to use straight away. There's some recovery stuff to make a recovery file to tape or to disk, and to export ROMs and whatnot. And I'll show you one other option that's grayed out at the moment in a moment, and that is to load stuff through the USB port so that you can run games that way. Okay, so this really is kind of haphazard, but what I'm after doing is trying to put everything into the camera's view, more or less. But what I've got going here is I have the Hobbit ROM down here in the window on the bottom left. That's where it'd usually be if you were building a ROM file. And I'm after connecting the Dandanator to the laptop using the USB cable, and it's plugged into the back of the Amstrad. So we'll power on the Amstrad. We can hear that it's after making a connection with Windows there through that little boop-buddy boop that it gave. And what we should be able to do now, if we select extra here and we go down to send game via serial port, you'll notice if I click on this, it should send the game data across the USB port into the Dandanator without actually programming anything. It'll just kind of inject it straight into the CPC's memory. And here you'll see that we have USB game. We press U in order to use that option. But this is kind of temperamental, and I found the best way to do it is to click on the send game via serial port and wait a second or two before you press U. And generally that will work. So we click on send game via serial port and we press U. And there we go. It looks to be after loading up. We'll just wait until this little spinny aroundy timer thing is finished. And if I press return, you are in a comfortable hall. Oh, there we go. Look, it's drawn the picture and everything. So it works. That works. You can test out games that way if they're on your hard drive, or yeah, well, on your PC's hard drive. You can kind of USB load them very quickly. So there you go. That's pretty much it. I do not know the word. So that's that. That is the end of today's episode. Is it a good little device? It's not half bad at all. To be honest with you, I probably prefer to have some kind of a SD card readery thing built into it as well. And I believe there is something like that available nowadays that you can get too. But in its own right, it's not a bad little device that you can program a number of games that you like to play on, and you can load them up really fast. It's much better than a kind of a tape device thing, or even a disc, because it's way faster than that. So there you go. That is the end of today's episode. Hope you kind of half enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to. I'm not doing this for subscriptions or stuff anymore. I couldn't really be bothered. If you want to watch me videos, watch them. If not, all the same to me. So anyway, until the next time, or not, we'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.